Hello everyone! For this class we will be going through a 30-minute flow from a newly 30-year-old. It is my birthday. Starting off with the back of our mat, using a resistance band if you need be, coming down to a child's pose, and then reaching back up with an added shoulder stretch. Coming down, stretching the shoulders, coming back up to a hero's pose. Repeating this a few times. I personally choose to use a resistance band because it just feels nicer on my shoulder blades. And now rotating through the shoulders. Going to reach left shoulder, left knee, rotate, right shoulder, right knee, sit back up to hero's pose. And repeat, but reversing it. And coming back up. Coming down. Reversing. And then coming back up to hero's pose. Down one more time, and this time we're pausing in child's pose while still maintaining that shoulder stretch, whether or not you require a resistance band. And now on your next breath, and however you see fit, sitting back up and then coming up, standing at the back of our mat, we're going to repeat that same upper body motion shoulder stretch, but we're also being in our Tadasana, standing mountain pose, standing up, arching through the back, bending over with the shoulder stretch, forward fold, and standing back up again. Repeating this a few times over at your own pace, and whether or not you require a subtle bend in your knees is also perfectly fine. Now from here, just holding your forward fold, still stretching out your shoulders. And try to make sure that you bend from the hips, not the lower back. And now ditching the resistance band if you have one, standing back up to our mountain pose or Tadasana. Taking nice deep breaths, completely grounding ourselves. Rising your hands up to the sky, stepping about hip width apart, and taking in turn stretching out either side of your waist. Gripping onto one wrist and just swaying side to side, stretching out either side of your waist. Feel free to switch up your grip on your wrists as well. Now from here, forward fold. Walking forward just slightly, lowering your knees, and then coming into a child's pose. On your next inhale, you're going to roll forward into an upward facing dog and then shift back into a child's pose. Inhaling child's pose, exhaling upward facing dog. You could of course switch the breathing pattern around, inhaling on the upward facing dog and exhaling on the child's pose, whatever feels nicest for you. Now from here, coming into a cat-cow, making any adjustments with your hands and knees if you need to. Inhaling cat, meaning our back reaches to the sky. Exhaling cow, meaning our back dips and our head reaches up. On our cat, our head bows forward. Once again, taking this at your own pace, per your own breathing rhythm. Now from here, shifting your legs back a fraction, reaching your hands forward, and I personally like to grip onto the mat so don't slide forward. We're coming down into our puppy pose. Feel free to have your forehead to the mat, and also feel free to have your chin lifted for an additional stretch underneath your chin, reaching to near your chest. And see if you can't reach your sternum, meaning your chest, to the mat. And now shifting back up, coming into a plank. And from your plank, we're coming into some spinal rolls. Shifting back, downward dog. Rolling forward, plank. Shifting back, downward dog. Shifting forward into a plank, and then back into a downward dog. Repeating this a few times. Now from here, adjusting your hands if need be, reaching your left hand for your right ankle, looking under your right armpit, and now switching out sides, just coming to a brief plank, and then shift over to the other side, right hand reaches for left ankle, looking under your left armpit. It's a very gentle spinal stretch. Returning back to a downward dog. And just for a breath, now stepping your left foot forward into a low crescent lunge. Options to have your hands in prayer, up to the sky, or hands clasped behind you. Reaching tall with your chest, sinking low with the hips, keeping the pelvis tucked. And now with that being said, rise your way up however you see fit into a peaceful warrior. Try to bend as much as you can into the left knee. And now shifting around into your side lunge. Same elbow comes to same knee, so in this case left elbow to left knee, right arm up and overhead nearby your ear, not close to your face. And shifting back to peaceful warrior, but this time bring your right arm behind you, almost reaching for your left leg if you can manage. And now coming down, coming into skandasana, keeping our right leg extended, our left leg is bent in. Feel free to keep your hands planted for as long as you need to, but if you're up for the challenge, see if you can't bring your arms to a prayer, or just palms together. And it is fun if your lower half is quite a few inches off the mat, mine is as well, and I'm still getting used to skandasana. And you really want to make sure that your toes are pointed up to the sky, kneecap is engaged. Pressing your way back up now into warrior 2. Arms in a straight line, shoulder height. And now straighten through your leg, your left leg, coming into pyramid pose. So your left hand reaches for the mat, both your legs are straight, and your arms are one straight line, in line with your shoulders. Feel free to look up at the sky, and now rotating into a pyramid pose. So you're going to be facing your left leg, adjusting your right foot further back if you need to, coming into your high lunge, and then shifting back to your pyramid pose. And we're going to do this a few times over. A lot of back and forth movement, just to really help loosen up the muscles in our legs. So feel free to bring it on your fingertips as well, and if need be, feel free to use blocks as well. And now planting your hands right next to your left leg. See if you can't bring your stomach and ribs, maybe even your forehead, as close to your leg as you can get it. And now stepping forward into a forward fold. Just rising up halfway for a moment and then refolding over from the hips, not the lower spine or the lower back. And then rolling on up to your Tadasana or mountain pose, reaching arms up overhead, doing some sun salutations just for a moment, rising your arms up, hands to prayer, one more time, arms up and overhead, hands to prayer. And now relaxing your arms by your side to our Tadasana, mountain pose. Just re-grounding ourselves, taking a lot of deep breaths, or breathing at a regular pace, whatever feels nice for you. Reaching your arms back up, prayer hands, forward fold, holding a forward fold for a moment, and then stepping back to a downward dog, shifting forward to a plank, chaturanga or knees chest chin, upward facing dog, and then pressing back to your downward facing dog. And now we're going to shift our right foot forward in just a moment. Now shifting your right foot forward, low crescent lunge. Once again, prayer hands, arms up and overhead, or clasped hands behind you. Lifting tall with your chest, sinking low with the hips with your pelvis tucked. And now when you're ready, going to rise up to your peaceful warrior. So rising up, right arm up and overhead, bend into the right knee as much as you can. Left arm reaches anywhere along your left leg. And now coming into your side lunge. Right elbow to right knee, left arm up and overhead, nearby your ear. Coming back to peaceful warrior, this time reaching your left arm behind you. Maybe see if you can grab onto your right leg, no worries if you can't. And now coming down onto our right side skandasana, left leg is extended, left toes up to the sky, kneecap engaged. And whether or not you want to try to challenge yourself to prayer hands, but if need be, you can absolutely keep your hands planted on the mat. And if really need be, you can even place a block or a bolster underneath your waist, or underneath your butt more specifically. And when you're ready, pressing back up to your warrior 2. Arms at shoulder height, bending the right knee. Now straighten out your right leg, shifting forward with the upper body and coming into a triangle pose. Once again, arms are one straight line. Looking up to the sky if that's within your practice. And now coming into your pyramid pose, adjusting your feet where you need to. You might find yourself needing to shuffle your left leg back, and that is completely fine. Now coming into a high lunge and then pressing it back to your pyramid. We're going to shift back and forth a couple of times over. Inhale, high lunge. Exhale, pyramid pose. Try to keep your stomach and your ribs close to your leg, and whether or not your forehead reaches your shin. And now we are holding our pyramid pose, so feel free to plant your hands closer to the mat. Remember to keep your hips square, your kneecaps engaged, but see how much you can relax your straight leg that you're leaning over. From here, stepping forward into a forward fold, Taking one moment, then you're going to part your feet about hip width distance, heels in, toes out, lowering your hips as far as you can, digging your elbows to your knees, coming into a malasana yogic squat, an amazing hip opener. You might even feel a nice stretch in your inner thighs as well. From here, reaching behind you that helps with stability, launching your way back, laying on your back, coming into a spinal twist. In my case, my left leg is across, but of course if you're mirroring me, your right leg comes across. Now switching out sides, bringing your right leg across. If you're still mirroring me, your left leg comes across. Returning back through center, and we're going to come into a happy baby. So reaching for the outside edges of your feet, bringing your feet about further than shoulder width distance, and aiming to bring your knees as close to the ground as you can. From here, however you see fit, you're going to rock forward and launch your way up into a left side high lunge. Once you're there, reaching your arms up high, up over your head, reaching your right foot back as far as you can, deep bend in the left leg. Now coming into some eagle arms, my left arm is under my right. And now motioning forward just like we did at the start of class, and rising back up, exhaling as you come down just with your upper body, inhaling as you come up. We're going to do this a few times over. From here now, planting your hands, shifting your right foot further back if you need to, but then sinking your left knee away from you, your left toes point away from you, coming down into a lizard posture. See if you can't come down to your elbows as well if that's within your practice. Otherwise, stay up on your hands if it gets too much. Make sure to keep your hips in line with your body. The posture will suddenly become easier if your hips start to sink. The posture stays complicated when your hips are in the right angle. And now from here, heel toe your left foot to the right side of your mat, taking your time coming across. Then lowering your left knee to the mat, coming down into a left side pigeon pose. Of course, if you're still mirroring me, you're on your right side. If it helps as well, loop your right elbow around your left foot, just to keep your hips square. I was on a teensiest bit of a slope on the ground, so looping my right arm around my left foot definitely helped. Rising back up on an inhale, curling your right leg under you, sitting more or less cross-legged, coming back onto your back, regrouping onto your feet, coming back into a happy baby. Switching out your grip to the inside of your foot this time, if that helps with the grip. Once you've got a grip, you can then go into straighten through your legs in an extended happy baby. This is going to be great for the inner thighs, inner hips, hamstrings and calves. And now returning back to the high lunge, this time on your right side, so however you see fit to getting over there. Once you're there, bend in the right knee, straight left leg, left foot as far away from you as you feel comfortable. Hands up and overhead. Now this time we're going to bring our hands behind us, interlock fingers, lowering your upper half down to your knee, inhaling, coming back up, keeping the engagement on our arms, exhaling, lowering down, inhaling, coming back up just with our upper body, lowering back down, lifting back up, lowering back down, this time planting your hands and coming onto our right side lizard pose, coming down to your elbows if that's within your practice, sinking your right knee away from you, your right toes point away from you. Make sure that your hips stay center. Again, the posture will feel easy if your hips are sinking. The posture goes back to feeling complicated and intense when you're in the right alignment. Rising back up, and then heel toe your right foot to the left side of your mat, coming into our left side pigeon pose. Gently pressing your way back up to downward facing dog, just holding for a moment, and then swinging your left leg up to three-legged dog, and then making some circles with your left knee, just warming up our hip joint from a different angle, and then straightening back through and stepping your left leg to the front of your mat to low lunge. This time we're going to shift our way back to a half split. Feel free to keep a flex in your left foot. Then shift back into low lunge. Shift back into your half split. Coming back to low lunge. And then stepping back to a downward facing dog. Then step your right foot behind you, adjust your left leg if you need to, coming into wild thing, however that looks and feels for you. Coming back through to center, to a high plank, chaturanga, upward facing dog. Just gonna hold here for a few moments. Pressing it back to downward facing dog. From here now, rising your right leg up to the sky, three-legged dog, drawing some circles with your right knee, warming up our right side hip. Then extending your leg and stepping through, however that happens, to your low lunge. From your low lunge, shift back to half split. Feel free to flex your right foot. Shifting forward again to low lunge. Shifting back, half split. Shifting forward again, low lunge. Shifting back, half split. Coming back forward, but then stepping back into a downward facing dog. Stepping your left leg behind you, coming into your right side wild thing, however that looks and feels for you. And then shifting back to a downward facing dog. Then crossing your legs under you, laying back, and coming all the way down to a reclined butterfly pose or Supta Baddha Konasana. Adjusting yourself wherever you need to. So heels together, knees apart. Feel free to plant your hands on your thighs. But if you're not really feeling this posture, feel free to extend out into shavasana, corpse pose. Our final resting posture, as we have now reached the other end of class. I'm just going to absorb everything we just did, completely and purely relaxing. Nice deep easy breaths at your own rhythm. From here, begin to wiggle fingers and toes, and then gradually, when you're ready, roll over into a laying or fetal position. Then taking your time, sitting on up into an easy seated pose. Placing your elbows to your knees, and optional to have your hands in Anno Mudra. Then rising your hands above you, taking a nice deep inhale and a deep exhale as you bow down to yourself, thanking yourself so much for this flow, for being gentle with yourself, just a few strengthening elements. Gotta have that even balance. I hope your day is beautiful, blissful, filled with joy, especially if it is also your birthday today. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed this class. I shall hope to see you for the rest of my videos. Namaste.